Hi there, you right? How we doing? I do not usually wear glasses. This is the first time I've ever wore glasses on a video. The only reason I'm wearing glasses is because at the end of the day, sometimes my eyes get tired. This is one of them days. It's been a long day. My eyes are getting tired, and I want to be able to read my notes because I've wrote out a load of notes for this live stream. So I want to make sure that I cover everything that I've gotten down. So I really don't want to start reading halfway through and my eyes to start dying on me. So that's why I've got glasses on today. So what I'm going to be covering in this live stream today is the 5 steps to transform your lifestyle. So if you would like to make lasting lifestyle changes and ultimately feel better in yourself, that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about today. I've been on the journey myself for the last 6 years, and on that journey I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from other people as well. I studied psychology and things, and that's what we basically talk about today. So what I mean by lifestyle is I'm not talking about living in Bali, although you can do that with time if you want to. I'm not talking about just going to the gym and eating healthy. That's part of it. But I'm really talking about creating a healthy lifestyle that is fulfilling and rewarding, so that it doesn't feel like a chore, so it doesn't feel like you're trying to push yourself to do it all the time. It's just what you enjoy, right? That's ultimately what I'm talking about. I think, too many people focus on just the habits like the gym, the nutrition, whatever else, but they don't focus on creating fulfillment, creating something that aligns and creates life balance. So ultimately, it's rewarding for them long term. So apologies if I do look down as I'm speaking, just because I'm reflecting on my notes and making sure that I cover everything. So I believe what people need to do when they're looking to transform their lifestyle is to create an identity change. And I'll go through that a little bit more as we go along. Now, what I'm going to be talking about are the 5 steps. So the first step, I'm going to get straight to the first step. So the first step to transforming your lifestyle is to build motivation. So building motivation, what I mean by that is getting associated, getting focused, creating the ambition to stay focused, energized, and productive. You can engineer it. And a lot of people don't realize that. They think, oh, well, motivation just comes in waves. Oh, yes, it does, but you can create the optimal conditions so that you have a lot more of it more regular. So that's what we're talking about as well. And you need motivation to get you started, right? You need that to get you started. And then the discipline is just the maintenance of that. So what do I mean by getting motivated? Sorry, I've just covered that. The 3 steps. So we're going to get into the 3 steps to get motivated. So step number 1 is to create the conditions to be motivated, which I just briefly spoke about there. You've got to create the conditions to be motivated. So the way you do that is honestly just take care of yourself. You've got to be in a state of mental clarity. So that's looking out for the things you're consuming, making sure that you're eating well, that you're drinking plenty of water, that you are exercising. Ultimately, you need to get your physiology in a good place so that you're mentally clear. And of course, you've got to pump yourself up to do that in the first place. I get that part. But that's the thing. You're building motivation. So when every little bit of motivation you get, you use it to instill new habits, which help to build more motivation. Okay, so first things first. Stress reduction, exercise, breath work, anything that's going to improve your physiological and mental state so that you're more present, so that you're more focused, so that you can think more clearly, so you've not got a foggy head. So once you've done that, once you've got a little bit of clarity, the next step is to get connected to purpose. And the way you get connected to purpose is you start to ask questions. You start to focus on things that you want in your life. So, for example, what do you want to achieve in the next year? Why do you want to achieve that? Or you can think about who you want to be as a person. You ask questions that spark motivation inside of you, and you start to create a routine of asking these questions. You don't just ask these questions once, you start to create it as part of your daily routine. And what that does is it gets you focused on what's important to you in your life. And in doing that, it increases your motivation. So you've got to direct your mind if you want to create motivation. And you direct your mind, again, with your daily habits. What questions are you asking yourself on a regular basis? And then following on from that, the third step to create motivation is to use that and to take action, because action builds momentum, and momentum builds motivation. Now, something to remember on this is just to keep it simple, is just to say, what's one action I can take? And if you can just take one action, that builds. So that'll build your momentum. So take one action. Now, something to remember as well is lag time. So lag time, it just means that when you first start doing the right thing, you don't necessarily get the results right away. So there is a lag time from when you start doing the right thing to when you actually get the result. So you've got to bear that in mind when you take an action. Some actions, the results come later, but you just need to persist at taking the action. There are some results that you get right away. From eating healthy, from looking after yourself, you get them right away. But there's some things that come with time. There's a lag time to them. And then you've got to finally schedule it in. So if you want to go to the gym, for example, you schedule it in for a certain time. If you want to do some food prep, maybe on a Sunday, you schedule 2 hours when you're going to do some food prep. You know, if you want to start learning a new skill, you schedule 2 hours on a certain day to do it. That commits to it. That sets it. That way you're not relying on, oh, well, do I feel like it today? It's like, right, I do it at this time and this. And it creates that routine, and your body and mind gets used to it as well. So it prepares for it. So they are the 3 steps to creating motivation. And now we're going to get to step number 2 of transforming your lifestyle. So step number 2 is to cut out destructive habits. So habits that aren't serving you. So what I mean by that is habits that don't serve your health, happiness, and life. So think right now to yourself. Can you think of some habits that don't serve your health, your happiness, and your life that you engage in? Think about it, because that's what we're going to be talking about now, how you can cut them out. So these are my top tips that I personally learned of cutting out habits. So you've got to decide and commit. You know, you've got to decide what you will do specifically. 6 years ago, I decided that, I was in a place where I was on drugs. I was in hospital, I'll get to that in a minute. I got to a place where I was taking a lot of drugs. I was drinking. I just wasn't looking after myself. And, I decided that I'd commit to this healthy diet. I started a plant-based diet. I started exercising. I started practicing meditation. And I started feeling better in myself, and what led on to that is more and more decisions. So it started with a decision. Now, I believe in absence first, moderation later. If you have an unhealthy relationship with something, you need to first build absence. Then from that, you can build moderation, if you want to. So for me, I actually went sober for 4 years before then I can have an occasional couple of drinks now, and I'm able to moderate it. But it was only because I built the self-discipline, the purpose in my life. I've got more reasons to not escape, to not go back on my old patterns. So I feel like I've reframed, I've created mental clarity, and now I've got that confidence in the ability to moderate myself. But if you don't have a healthy relationship, trying to say, I'll reduce it, telling an alcoholic to go to a bar and have 1 pint is, it doesn't always go down well. You understand? So you got to think, speaking with your food as well, with your addictions, you've got to think, okay, do I need to go absence of this, at least for a period of time? So you've got to make a decision. You decide exactly what you're going to do. I decided I would quit smoking. I decided I would eat better. I decided I wouldn't drink alcohol anymore. Now the first step we had, the first tip I just gave you, was you've got to decide. You've got to make a decision on what you're going to do. Now, the second step is to create the identity change. Now, there was a lot of this that I'm teaching you, by the way, is from someone called Tony Robbins. And there was a quote by Tony Robbins that said, "The most powerful force in the human personality is the need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves." The most powerful force in the human personality is the need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. So whoever we believe we are, that runs our life. So I started personally deciding that I'm not this person anymore, that I'm going to be somebody else, right? I'm not going to smoke anymore. Now, that's what you need to do. Like, if you think about it, if, let's just say, someone came up to you and said, "Do you want to shoot some heroin right now with me?" Now, unless you're a heroin user, the chances are you're probably going to be like, "No, like, I'm good," because that's not who you are. That's not something you would do. If you're someone who goes out and gets drunk at the weekend and somebody says to you, "Do you want to go out and get drunk?" It's an option. But if you're someone who doesn't drink, or you're not a binge drinker, that's not an option for you. That doesn't really require discipline. That's just part of who you are. Who you believe you are determines what you will do, what you won't do, what you can do, and what you can't do. So you've got to really question who you want to be. And moving on from that, so we've got the identity change. There are two forces, two barriers to this. You've got internal and external. Now, for the internal, you can change this by creating a vision, by getting some role models, some people you can look up to, who you want to become. And you can also change your language. So rather than saying, "Oh, I shouldn't eat this, I don't want to eat this," or "I can't eat this." Instead, you say, "I don't eat this," or "I don't drink this," or "I don't drink," right? And then you start to condition that to yourself to change your identity. Now, on the external part, that's where it gets more challenging, because people believe you to be a certain person. So, for example, if you're a heavy smoker, you've tried to quit smoking multiple times, right? And you say to somebody that you're not smoking anymore, they'll say, "Yeah, whatever, come on. Come out for one," right? And when they say that, you're going to be pulled to say, "Oh, go on then." Because they remind you of who you was. But the only way you can change it, the best way you can change it is, well, you've got to watch out for people that obviously are going to pull you back. You might have to limit your time with them. But what you can also do is you can transition your identity. And the way you do that is you do a softer tone first. So you say, for example, "I'm going on a detox from it right now. I'm going to try 30 days without it." So it's not as threatening to them, right? It's not like, "Well, yeah, okay." Then you say, "Well, I'm not smoking. I'm not liking it." And then you change to, "I'm not a smoker," or "I'm not a drinker," or whatever you want it to be. And then you can build the absence and then create the moderation later. And then the third step to overcoming destructive habits, to taking them out of your life, is to start feeling good from the inside. And the only way you can help yourself to feel good from the inside is to, again, we've talked about habits, creating the habits. You've got to master your mindset. You've got to look after yourself. I remember when I was in a hospital, after taking too much ketamine, and my mom was looking over me. And I remember hearing after that my mom said that when I was in the state, I can't remember it, when I was in the, ketamine-induced state, she asked me, she and the nurse asked me, why I had taken it. And I said that I just wanted to feel good. And I think so many people, just want to feel good. And, they go to habits that disempower them. They want to get out of pain and into pleasure. So we've really got to take control of how we feel internally and find better ways, more empowering alternatives to address that. So you've got to obviously change your mindset. You've got to look after yourself from the inside if you want to avoid these habits. Now, this is exactly what we're going to get to on the next step. So the third step is to master your mindset and emotions. So now, as I said, obviously, your mindset is key. And by changing your mindset, you can see life differently. Now, a lot of people let emotions run their life. Instead, what you need to do is take control of your emotions and decide consciously how you want to live. Now, I'm going to go through 3 steps. 3 steps to master your mindset and emotions. And the first step is to understand its components. So imagine you've got a triangle. At the top of the triangle, you've got physiology, right? Physiology always comes first. That means when you're looking after yourself, when you're trying to change your state, because really, it's about state. Mastering your mindset and emotions is about state. Now, physiology always comes first. You need to address the physiology first, because if you don't, you can't think your way out of negativity if your physiology's off. You need to change your physiology first. The only way you can do that is through deep breathing, is through exercise, is through drinking water, eating well, looking after your physiology. Once in your physiology, you've got your focus, what you decide to focus on, and what you decide to believe. So, an example. Let's just say somebody's going to come over for dinner, right? And then suddenly, you realize they're 20 minutes late. They don't respond when you text them. Let's just say it was a date. What's your first thoughts? What does that mean to you? Because then you'll decide what it means. So you'll focus on that, and whatever you focus on is a reality. But then it's also, what does that mean? Maybe it means that they've changed their mind. That maybe I've done something wrong and it's thrown them off. Right? You can decide what to focus on and obviously what it means. So, focus, meaning, and then you've got, finally, on the other side of the triangle, so you have physiology at the top, focus, belief here, and here you've got language, the words that you're using, how you're describing yourself, how you're speaking to others. The words that you use obviously affect your state, how you feel. If you say, I'm depressed, it's going to trigger a certain state, right? If you say, I'm feeling a little bit off, that's going to trigger a little bit of a state, right? It's going to affect. So the words that you use obviously have an impact on you and on others and on your state. So they're the components. So you understand the components of your mindset and emotions. They're your state, right? But you've also got your identity, which we mentioned earlier. Your identity controls who you think you are. It controls what you will do, what you won't do, what you can do, and what you can't do. So your identity is who you believe yourself to be. And then the other thing that controls your state is whether you see a compelling future. So we all need to see a compelling future to be truly driven, right? We need to see that the future is going to be better. So to influence your state, you start with your physiology. You change what you're focusing on. You get yourself to see a compelling future. How do you do that? Listen to positive things that inspire you, things that educate you. And you change your language, you change the words that you're using. You become conscious of it. You can practice mindfulness. It brings more awareness to the moment, so you can take more conscious control of your actions, of your thoughts. You can start to journal, to understand yourself, to build self-awareness. There are 3 ways you can change your state. You can change it by literally priming it. You prime it with your daily routines every day. So when you wake up and do a mindfulness routine or you exercise at the gym, you are priming your state. You're doing something to set your focus for the day. And then the second way you can change your state is to transform it. What that means is when your state is low, for example, you're angry, you're stressed, you're depressed, something has set you off. Are you able to change that state? Because you can build the muscle of changing your state. And there's 3 simple steps to that. When you recognize it in the moment, you ask yourself, does staying in this state help me to feel better or to solve the problem? Because that destroys the belief that's keeping you there. And then all you have to do is address the physiology first, change the focus. Do some exercise, do some breathing, ask some questions. What could you feel grateful for? What could you feel thankful for? Gratitude is like the antidote to stress. So if you focus on what things that you're grateful for, your stress goes down. So moving on. Again, I've got my notebook here. I'm just moving on. And we've got step number 4. So step number 4 is building health, strength, and shape. So the first step to building strength, health, and shape, tip, they're not necessarily in an order. Build a healthy diet. Okay? I believe you should aim for like 80% of what you eat to be healthy and nutritious. Right? You want to at least nutritious. Right? At least bringing something into your body. Now, if you have a bad habit with something, if you have some unhealthy eating patterns with certain foods, I'd say follow what I said in the disempowering habits, in the destructive habits. Create absence first, then build moderation, right? Create the absence first, start with either a whole foods diet or a diet that completely changes your whole structure. For example, I moved to a plant-based diet that made me change everything I was eating. So it forced me to reframe my eating, right? So I started eating quality and I started looking out for my nutrition because I needed to, because I was going plant-based and I didn't want to get a deficiency, right? So you can either do that, go plant-based, which, by the way, does have its health benefits. It can reduce your risk of heart disease. It can help the environment, and it can be good, in terms of animal cruelty side of things. But you don't need to be this. It doesn't need to be a thin line, right? You don't have to be, vegan or non-vegan. There is a mid. You can reduce the amount you consume and eat a little bit more plant-based foods, and it might just benefit your heart health and obviously positive impact on the environment. So there's no harm in being halfway. And I think many people are like, right, you're vegan or you're not vegan. There's no harm in being halfway, right, and just reducing. So generally 80-20%. But if you want to completely reframe your eating, either go whole foods for a period of time to just whole plant food, not necessarily plants, just whole foods. It can be salmon and fish and stuff like that, right? So just generally whole foods. Or you can go to a plant-based diet because it reframes your whole eating, even if it's just for a period of time. So I'm also going to go through the second step. So the second step to obviously building health, strength, and shape, I don't know why I keep saying obviously today, is to build a strength routine. So to build a strength routine, you need to at least do 2 sessions in the gym per week. 2 sessions where you're hitting throughout that week, you're hitting all your major muscle groups. If you can, ideally twice, you're hitting them. So if you're doing 2 sessions a week, you're better with a full body if you do that. But yeah, anywhere from 2 to 6 days a week, do some form of strength training. Now, a couple of tips for that. Intensity is key, but you need to start by building the foundation, building the form, building the technique. So start to build intensity gradually. Start from about 7 RPE, so where you've got 3 reps left, and you can build to go until failure and pushing and doing different kinds of sets where you play around with it and you play up the intensity. But generally, just try to do at least 2 working sets of each exercise. Your first 2 working sets are the most impactful. You'll get the most out of them. So if you're someone that like you've got limited time and you just want to maximize what the time you're spending in there, you want to build intensity again with time, but you also want to make sure that you're getting your first 2 working sets. So that's sets where you're pushing like a good intensity, right? So if you just get 2 sets, that is where you're going to get the most from out of the. If you was to go for 3, you would get a lot. You would get something out of it, but there's a diminishing return after 2 working sets. Diminishing return. So if you just get your 2 sets, get the intensity high, you'll maximize your time in the gym. So building strength. There are other things you can do. You could do like rock climbing and things like that. Anything that is challenging your muscles, you can do. But you basically want to challenge your muscles at least 2 times a week. You're up to 6. And then the third step is to build cardio fitness. So you can do that through biking, through running, through... you generally want to do a higher intensity thing for this, because I am going to talk about as well steps. Obviously, you've got steps. You've also got just general hard work. If you're someone who works hard, you've got a physical job, you're probably doing cardio anyway. If you're doing, if you've got a child and you run around, you do all sorts of stuff, you're probably doing a lot of cardio, right? But general walking, some form of high intensity cardio once or twice a week, and then just your general activity. Stay active. You want your days to be active. And even on your recovery days, you want some activity, even if it's just walking, because it's going to help with your recovery. And that's actually what we get to next. So the final step is to optimize your recovery. So you can do that by sleeping well. Simple, but it's powerful. Just sleep 7 to 8 hours and you will get better recovery. As well as that, stress reduction. Stress has an impact on your recovery. Nutrition, we've already spoken about, but nutrition has an impact on your recovery. You really want to get protein right after you train. Ideally, within 30 minutes, you consume some protein. But what's most important is that within that day, you consume enough protein. So you can look up how much you would need for protein, but enough protein in that day is the most important thing. But you've also got other nutrients that you get from just having a balanced diet. Just eat a balanced diet and you'll probably be all right. But moving on from that, we're going to go to step number 5, create a better life. So create a better life. So how do you create a better life? I'm going to give you 3 tips to create a better life. Simple, but powerful. Number 1, create better relationships. And you can do that by focusing on what your intention is with that relationship, by setting intentions on a daily basis about how you want to be, how you want to interact with them, right? How you want to connect with them, right? Give, contribute. Focus on contribution. Focus on what you can give rather than what you can take. State. Look after your state, look after you, and that will impact your relationships, and your relationships will impact your state. It's a circular thing, right? So if you have good relationships, ultimately it's going to help you to feel better as well, right? To simplify it. And then we've got step number 2, develop yourself. Start learning. Start learning new skills. Even if you don't know what to start with something. Dive into something. Learn to, learn to speak, learn to write, learn to do social media. Whatever your thing is, start learning something. Start developing yourself. Start setting yourself challenges so that you can grow. Because if you become more, you'll experience more and you'll get more from your life. And then finally, we've got the last step, which is to move towards passion and purpose. Now, I think there's too many people out there today saying, don't move towards passion, focus on this instead. Right? I believe passion gives you juice in life. I believe passion gives you energy and it just lights you up. Now, if you don't have passion in your life right now, that's cool. You can find that with time. If you just go on your journey, if you just commit to a journey of learning, of delving into things, you will eventually get more purpose and more passion. As you have experiences, as you experience pain in others, you'll start to align more. But the most important thing is that you commit. You commit to a journey of learning and of searching for you, searching to find you, to find your purpose, to find your mission, to find what drives you in life. And then finally, number 3, the third tip I'm going to give you is positive input. I believe in positive input every day. So that's taking in something that is inspiring to you, taking in something that uplifts you, taking in something that helps you to see a compelling future, that helps you to see that there's more out there, that there's more opportunity, that there's more capability in you, that you can overcome your challenges, right? No matter how long it takes, you'll eventually get there if you just commit and you learn and you commit and you learn and you fail and you learn and you fail and you learn and you fail and you learn. If you persist, you'll get somewhere in the end of it. So I hope these 5 steps, that's the 5 steps. So again, I'll summarize them quickly, but these are the 5 steps. So 5 steps to transform your lifestyle. First things first, you build motivation. The 3 steps for that. You create clarity, right? You create mental clarity by looking after your habits, right? Creating the condition. And then you get connected to purpose by asking questions that align you with what's important in your life. And you create that as a regular routine. And then number 3, you take action. Remember, 1 action, leg time, schedule. Number 2, you cut out destructive habits. So you cut out habits that don't serve you. And you do that by changing your identity. You decide, you commit to it, right? You make it an identity change and you overcome the internal, external barriers. And then number 3, master your mindset and emotions. Take control of your mind. Remember, you've got the triad, physiology at the top, focus and language. Think about your physical body always comes first. Then you think about what you're focusing on, right? What you believe, the language you're using. Are you focused on a compelling future? Are you focused on a future that's better than this one? Or are you focused on the pain you're going through now? Have you thought about who you want to be? Because your identity controls who you are. It controls what you will do, what you won't do, what you can do, and what you can't do. So think about that. And then finally, we had the last 2 steps. Number 4 was to build health, strength, and shape. And we do that by building a healthy diet, building a strength routine, building cardio fitness, and optimizing recovery. And then number 5, the final step, was to create a better life. So we had create better relationships, develop yourself. Number 3, move towards passion and purpose. So I hope that those 5 steps have helped you today. If you've got any questions on any of them and you'd like some guidance, drop me a message. But thank you for coming along. Thank you for listening in. Good to speak with you. Enjoy. Take care. Good night.